Good morning, folks. Good morning. Welcome back to the morning show on a wet Tuesday morning. I think I have guests in the studio here, and they'll tell us what they're doing here in a short while. But first, let me introduce Jacqueline Small. Jacqueline Small. Good morning. Paulette Wade.
Good morning.
And Mark Antrobus.
Good morning.
Good morning. Suppose you tell me, Jacqueline, exactly what do you do and where do you come from?
Well, I'm a demographer at the Statistical Institute of Belize.
Okay.
I'm here today because I was very involved in the conduct of the multiple indicator cluster survey in 2015.
This so famous mix.
Yes, sir.
Paulette?
Yes, I'm Paulette Wade, Monitoring and Evaluation Specialist for UNICEF. I'm here as well. We're launching the MICS on Thursday, the 22nd of June, and so we're here to have a discussion around the MICS and UNICEF's support to the government in this data collection activity.
Okay, and Mark?
Yeah, good morning everyone. My name is Mark Antrobus. I'm the Social Planner in the Ministry of Human Development, Social Transformation and Poverty Alleviation. And just like Jacqueline, I was heavily involved in this survey. And now from government, it's the response to the results that have come out that we'll be planning for going forward.
You know, these are very intricate titles, you know, demographer, you're a monitoring specialist, and you're a social planner.
Yeah.
What's a demographer?
Well, we focus mainly on studying what changes in the population, what contributes to changes, how the population change over time,
Okay.
and what are the social factors, economic factors, anything that happens that affects how the population change. That's what we focus on.
Okay. And, well, I guess you all do that, don't you? Just
Yes.
on different capacitors,
Yes.
different grades. Let's go back to MICS. That was 2015.
Yes.
In a nutshell, difficult question. What did you learn?
Well, we learned that we have made some progress
In what?
in the development of our children
Okay.
and women and men. We have also learned that we have some more work to do.
When you put men and women together, you'll always have work to do.
No, but I must say that the 2015 mix is the third time that Belize has done this exercise.
Okay.
2016, 2011, and now 2015. But for
Yeah.
the first time in 2015, we added a module for men. Men was not captured in the other two surveys. So I think for this report, it's a little bit different. You know, and like you say, if you have information on men and women, then you have a little bit of trouble. But now we know what the trouble is,
You know what the
and we know how to maneuver ourselves in terms of intervention and support to men, as well as women and children.
How do you go about actually practically sourcing this information? What do you do?
Well, what we did was to, based on findings from various other surveys, as well as the mix, we identified areas where we thought we need to get some information, where data gaps exist. And we designed a sample that is nationally representative.
Okay.
In this
Okay.
case,
Sort of questionnaire?
Yes, we had 3 questionnaires. We had a household, well, 4 actually. We had a household questionnaire where we collected data about the living conditions, about child discipline, salt iodization, whether persons have access to improved water sources and sanitation, that sort of thing. And then we had an under 5 questionnaire where we asked mothers or caregivers of children under 5 about the child's development and child protection, nutrition, and that sort of thing. Then we also had questionnaires for women and men between the ages of 15 to 49.
Okay.
Where we asked about education. For women, we asked about access to health care in terms of maternity, and we ask about your knowledge about HIV, sexual behavior, a whole slew of social issues.
Okay.
I just wanted to piggyback on what Jackie said. In terms of the mix and identifying as well where those gaps are, it wasn't done in isolation. This was done in consultation with our national counterparts. So for mix, from UNICEF perspective, what we have are templates of questionnaires. And as a government, you look at these templates to see which one of
Where
these
you would need to
modules
tweak them
suit
and-
your
yeah,
country, and
yeah.
then you would have to then fix, and adjust them to suit the
Gotcha.
national context.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
we had that consultation at the national level. In fact, that was a bit of a sticky situation because we had some indicators that we wanted to add but didn't very much fit into the mix at that time. Now for the new mix 6, I noticed that some of the questions that Mark had, and I, someone from above heard him, the modules have also now captured some of the social indicators that he wanted, and he insisted that yes, we could have done so, and so a methodology was developed to try to capture that information. as well.
What social indicators you need to capture?
I think there's a whole slew of indicators. I mean, when you asked your question, what did we learn in a nutshell? I'm glad you didn't ask me, because life is complicated. We
yes,
have
it
so
is.
many social
Yeah.
issues, and this survey is perhaps the most comprehensive source of data that we have in the country. As Jacqueline mentioned, all those different questionnaires, we literally go from even before birth all the way through to middle age, if you like. So it's a really rich source of data that we can use for a whole range of different policy decisions. But some of the things that we're lacking in this one is a multidimensional poverty index, for example. So traditionally, we've always used expenditure to measure household poverty. And there's been an international change, really, in how we define poverty.
Yes.
And so with the change from the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, to the Sustainable Development Goals, one of those indicators now talks about poverty in all of its forms. And so we really wanted to jump ahead of the SDGs and include a module on that. And I'm glad to know someone's been listening to that doesn't always happen, but I'm glad someone did. That will give us a good footing in the next survey.
So the next mix, okay, when is the next mix? What's the plan?
Usually it's 5 years. Every 5 years,
Okay.
the mix.
It's 5 years
the mix,
already?
Yeah.
No,
It's almost there.
almost there.
Because this is 2015, and so the next mix technically should be conducted in 2020.
Right.
But in order to conduct a survey in 2020, then you have to have the preparation before. So I would
Really?
say 2018 in order to get ready for 2020. It's quite a lengthy process.
I didn't realize that. I thought, you prepare questionnaires and you put your people on the ground and
No.
Oh no,
No.
we had more than a year of planning going to this thing before we even go into the field. And it's not likely that we'll have it in 2020, even though that's when it's due, because 2020 is when we're supposed to have our census. And that's another huge activity.
Yes.
And so we have to...
And
it will
elections
probably
coming
be
up
a-
as well, so you'll have a lot of distractions.
Yes.
Well, perhaps someone is listening who will think about that election thing, because one of the issues we had, well, not an issue, a challenge that we had during the MICS5 was that we were already in the field when the elections were announced. And you know how our population is.
We are politically, anyway.
Yes, if you see people coming to ask questions,
Yeah.
it's automatically
Automatically
about politics.
politics, yeah.
And so in some areas, we actually had to withdraw from the field
There you
for
go.
a little
You see,
while
that's,
to
I hope
accommodate.
that was made a note of in your survey. That's very important.
Yes.
You know.
And so we have these challenges when we go to the field, in addition to persons not understanding or seeing the necessity of responding to these questions. But in general, we had a really, really good response and cooperation from the population. And for that, we really have to say thank you.
Do you do a target group or you do the whole country?
The sample is across the entire country. We divided the country into 7 regions. Usually we go by districts, but we have found that the population in Belize City South side is very different from the population in the rest of Belize
I'm glad you said
district. And so we divided the Belize district into 2 regions, so giving us 7 regions. We also are able to disaggregate the data by urban and rural. And so when we do the launch on Thursday, we'll be able to tell you something about what is happening in some of the districts and urban, rural. We look at what is happening by sex, certain age groups, and so on.
Well, I think this is us a first visit.
Oh yes.
We need to have you back, actually at your bidding, because it's a very important subject to keep people
And I think-
aware of what's going on.
Yeah, and I
So
think
don't
that,
be afraid to get in touch with me, and you need another time.
yeah,
We'll keep
because
talking
in
about this.
terms of the report, it's only 1/3 of the data that actually goes in that report. There is so much more that we could talk about, and so much more data that we could bring to the table. I mean, sit down, we could talk about nutrition fully. We could talk about what's happening in terms of women, in terms of antenatal care, education, sexual behavior, contraceptive use, the whole gamut. But one thematic area at a time, so that we can do it justice by sex, by geographic location, and by quintiles.
Does your data reflect anywhere? We have to bring back the political subject. Does it in your questionnaire reflect any, I don't know, how people feel about politics, religion?
At the Statistical Institute, we stay very far away from politics. We can't be seen to be even interested in politics at all because we have to remain neutral. The data is for everybody.
Well, it's not to ask, I mean, because we are living, I'm thinking of the work you do, and I'm thinking of this massive data you have about my country and all this information you have. The first thought that comes to my mind is, where is it? Is it sitting on a shelf like we always do? Are we using it? Or who wants to use it? Is anybody interested in reading it? You know,
and that is why Mark is here.
You know, so and then sitting here, we do our own survey.
Yeah.
This morning, you know, and it always comes up, the divide of our country, our society, politically and even religious wise, and that I think would affect how people sometimes react to your kind of survey.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
it does.
So it's good to know how they are feeling. You know, the media was so wrong with Trump. You know, he won't win. They did everything they could, and he still won.
I think you ask a really relevant question. There's very little survey information about people's thoughts on the topic of politics.
Right.
Not whether you support one party or the
No,
other,
no,
but
no,
how does politics influence my
Influence
life?
My life, right.
I
Basic
think,
question.
I think that is
Basic
something that we
question.
don't have much data on.
Yeah.
I think to take that as a real point. But then in terms of planning from this survey, it's already being used. So we had an early childhood development conference a couple of weeks ago. We've launched a strategy paper that's going to guide us until 2020. And I did a quick check this morning. There's 41 mentions of MICS in that policy document.
Okay.
MICS5.
Okay.
So it's already being used to promote policy and program service delivery.
Great.
Not to say that it's not fully used, as Paulette said, there's a huge amount of different thematic areas we can look at.
Yeah.
But to say that it's on a shelf is not correct. It's maybe on a computer, but we are certainly using it as a government. And I think one of the key points that comes from MICS these days is that it can't be a human development response. It can't be a Ministry of Education response. It can't be a Ministry of Health response. It has to be an intersectorial response because we can't take these issues in isolation.
I agree. The universities, for instance, this is information that should help them formulate how they're going to teach.
Yes.
You know, is it being used? Are they using your? I understand they are also doing research. Is everybody doing the research in isolation? I would think that your research is the general, the umbrella research that goes on, and how we live in this country. That's basically what we're doing.
Well,
Yes, it
Well,
is.
I'd like you to ask the universities that question. I don't think we're the best people to ask.
Yeah.
My understanding would be that there's very little of this research at the tertiary levels.
Because this isn't done, I'm sure considerable finance is used to do this.
Oh yes,
yes.
in general.
So it's not just a
From-
fly-by-night research
No,
you're
from
doing here.
beginning
No.
to end, it's almost $900,000 US.
Imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as Paulette mentioned, this report that we're putting out, it's just the tip of the iceberg. The data is available.
Where is it?
Well, for UNICEF, there is a website for MICS. It's called data.unicef.org. And there you can find the data set for MICS3 and data set for MICS4. We have not uploaded MICS5 because the launch has not occurred. After Thursday, then you would find the data set on that website. So it's
Okay.
accessible not only to Belizeans, but worldwide.
So you have to prepare for it, then you gather it, then you compile it, then you disperse it.
Yes.
Yes.
And at the same time, at every stage, you have to have capacity building. So there is also a capacity building component that's built in before the survey. There is a workshop training all data collectors and persons involved in terms of what your survey plan should look like, how you make that survey plan. When you're about to do your sample, there is a sample expert that comes and work with you to ensure that you can do that. When you're in the fields, there are people who come and assess to see or monitor to see that the quality is there in terms of the data collection. When you are about to go into your dissemination, what your report will look like, what type of products you are going to use, there is also a capacity building then as well.
I'll put this question to you, Jackie, because I'm recalling many years ago when I went to school. I did my first PR course. The professor, I was a foreigner at the university, and the professor made a question. He said, imagine your country as a person. Describe the person. Now I'm thinking you should be able to answer that question.
Yes.
Given a little time. I don't quite remember what I wrote. First, of course, made it a mail, and but the experience I have today would be a lot of different, color of skin, eyes, attitude, like first, is Belize would be an honest person? I'll say no. Right away. Religious, very. Self-righteous, no, but religious, yes, But I think you would be able to really, that would be the question. Make Belize into a person. What I mean, I don't want you to answer that now, of course, but I'm sure your mind starts to work. What kind of person would it be, a man or a woman? Do I have to ask you that? Would Belize be male or female?
It has become very controversial whether you refer to a country as female, So we are trying to stay away from the controversy. But I think what this mix has afforded us is an opportunity to really have a comprehensive look at what has been happening in Belize in terms of development over the last 5 years. And you are aware that we have signed on to the new Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes.
We have
MDGs.
been nationally mandated to follow our medium-term development plan, and so MICS will provide a baseline, sort of a jump off from where policymakers can say, okay, this is where we are, this is where we want to go according to our development plans and our global strategies. So this is what we need to do to get to where we want to go by 2030. So that is the opportunity that the MICS has provided us.
The launching is on Thursday?
Yes.
Where?
Radisson?
At the Radisson?
Yes.
Is it anyone can come in, anyone can go? Or it's
Well,
open?
we have sent invitations to the key partners in the ministry, in the
Right.
NGO, civil society, people we know that use the data, so that we can present the information to them. The report will also be disseminated at that point, and we will be there to answer any questions that they might have in terms of the data. Just to jump back to what Jackie said, in terms of policy and decision making, whenever you look at the data and you say, okay, well, I noticed that, for instance, breastfeeding rate was 14% and now it's 33%. And we said, okay, what was done? How did we get there? We can't just look at that data. Then we have to go down and say, okay, where are the mothers that ensured that their children were breastfed, so that we have this huge jump? And what were they doing right? And so how can we then amplify what they were doing right? And Mark will say, if we're comparing, then we also need to look at the confidence intervals to ensure that they were the same, that these numbers are, real values.
Obviously, you have different areas that you can look at individually,
Yes.
right? And we definitely have to do this. I think it will be very interesting for audience to pick on these, and like you mentioned breastfeeding. If they are not, why? Why are they not? Or the women don't want to do it anymore. Anyway, you want to say something?
I think picking up on that point and your question about how you describe the country as a person, one of the real advantages of this survey is the sample size, the number of people we ask questions about, because that allows us to drill down into the data a little bit deeper than we do in other surveys. So the disaggregation is really useful for us. So you'll find indicators where they're half the value in one region and twice as much in another region. And so it's very difficult to then take the average, because you lose that level of detail.
I know, it's very complicated. isn't it?
So I think this is a huge advantage from this
Well,
survey. It allows you to really target
We
interventions.
will have to have you back and talk more in specifically on different areas that you have learned, because this is what we need to know about ourselves,
Yes.
what you found out.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jacqueline, Paulette, and Mark, thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank
A pleasure
Thank you
talking
for
to you and
having
educating
us.
us again, and we'll definitely have you back, that's for sure.
We'll definitely come back.
We look forward
We
to
look
it.
forward to it.
We'll be back, folks. Stay with us.
Are you positive? You are negative. HIV free.
Are you positive you are negative? Get tested and see.
Are you positive? You are negative. Are you okay?
Are you positive you are negative? Get tested today.
Live Up, the Caribbean Media Alliance, in association with Scotiabank, PANCAP, and local ministries and departments of health, are for the 10th anniversary of Regional Testing Day, providing free HIV testing and counselling. Visit us online at iliveup.info for a schedule and full list of testing sites. Shouldn't you know your status? Live up for those you love, protect, and respect. Come on, get tested.
Are you positive you are negative? Live up today.
For $2 a day, you can get your gym on. You heard that right. $2 a day at Health and Fitness Body 2000 gets you access to our prime facility. Join today with this low membership cost. Just $60 a month, you can take advantage of weights, biking, personalized fitness, specialized classes in aerobics on Mondays and Wednesdays, Zumba on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Health and Fitness Body 2000, 1442 Coney Drive, open from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. Telephone 223-2502. Email body2000hnf@gmail.com.